The crystal city of Lyria was unlike anything Susan had ever seen. Buildings that should not have been able to stand defied gravity, rising in elegant spirals and arches that connected to one another. Lyrans moved through the city with purpose, their skin-shifting colors as they communicated in ways Susan could not understand. Some noticed her and stopped to stare, their black eyes wide with curiosity. They have never seen a human before, Eliara explained, as she led Susan through what appeared to be a central plaza. Many did not believe we would receive an answer to our distress call. Susan noticed that despite the beauty of the city, there was a feeling of sadness that hung in the air. Many of the crystal structures had dark patches, as if they were slowly dying, just like the people who built them. "How long has your species been suffering from this genetic problem?" Susan asked. The first signs appeared 300 cycles ago. At first we thought it was an isolated incident, a few who could not reproduce, but with each generation the problem grew worse. Now more than half our population is sterile, and those who can reproduce often bear children too weak to survive. Eliara led Susan to a large dome structure at the center of the city. Inside, Susan saw hundreds of stasis pods, each containing a Lyran. Many appeared to be children, their small bodies frail and still. "These are the last generation of children born to us," Eliara said, her voice heavy with sadness. "Most are too weak to survive outside these medical chambers." A shorter Lyran approached them. Her skin was a pale blue, and she wore what appeared to be a medical uniform with strange symbols etched into the fabric. She bowed slightly to Eliara before turning her attention to Susan. "This is May, our chief medical scientist." Eliara said, "She has been leading our efforts to find a cure." May studied Susan with open curiosity. "You are so different from us, your biology, your structure. Is it true your species has two distinct genders?" Susan nodded. "Yes, male and female. We reproduce sexually, combining genetic material from both to create offspring." May made a sound that the translator could not interpret. "Fascinating. Perhaps this is why your species has thrived while ours fails. Our reproduction involves a single parent dividing genetic material and combining it with stored ancestral patterns. It worked for millions of cycles, but now something is missing." Susan removed her equipment pack and took out her portable scanner. "With your permission, I would like to study your biology, compare it to our database of life forms. We may find similarities with species from Earth that could help us understand what is happening." May looked to Eliara, who nodded her approval. "You may access our medical database as well. Human, perhaps together we can find what we have missed all these cycles." For hours, Susan worked alongside May in the medical center. The Lyran genetic structure was unlike anything in Earth's database, yet there were strange similarities that nagged at Susan's scientific mind. The way their cells communicated, the method they used to repair damaged tissues, it reminded her of something. "Your people reproduce through a form of advanced parthenogenesis," Susan said as she studied the holographic display of Lyran DNA. "But there is evidence in your genetic code that this was not always the case. It appears your ancestors may have reproduced differently." May leaned closer to the display. "How can you tell?" "These dormant gene sequences. They appear to be designed to combine with other genetic material not from your own species. Not self-replication, but true combination. Like Earth species," Eliara, who had been silently observing, spoke. "There are ancient legends that speak of a time when the Lyrans shared our world with another species. The stories say they left for the stars when the great calamity came. We believed these were just myths." Susan felt excitement building. "May I see your historical records? These myths might contain clues." Eliara led Susan to what she called the memory chamber, a vast room with crystal pillars that contained the recorded history of the Lyran people. Susan was given a special headset that allowed her to experience the memories stored within the crystals. As the information flowed into her mind, Susan saw glimpses of Lyra Prime's ancient past. She saw the Lyrans living alongside another species, a more solid-looking people, with skin that did not shift colors, The two species appeared to live in harmony until a massive asteroid struck the planet. The second species used great ships to leave the planet while some Lyrans went with them. Others remained behind. When the vision ended, Susan removed the headset, her mind racing with possibilities. Your people were not always alone on this world. The other species, they were called the Terrans in your memories. Eliara's skin paled. Terrans Earth? Yes, Earth, Terra, same. Word, different language. Susan said excitedly. What if our worlds are connected? What if humans and Lyrans share a common history? Susan rushed back to the medical center with Eliara and May, following closely. She connected her scanner to the Lyran medical database and ran a comparison between human DNA and the dormant sequences in Lyran genetics. There, she pointed to the display. These sequences, they match human DNA, not completely, but enough to suggest a connection our species may have. Evolved together until the calamity separated us. May's skin turned a bright yellow, which Susan had learned indicated excitement. Are you suggesting that our genetic degradation is because we are missing components that should have come from your species? It's a theory, Susan said. Over time, without the genetic diversity that came from combining with human DNA, your reproduction system began to fail. The stored ancestral patterns degraded with each generation until they could no longer support healthy reproduction. Eliara placed a slender hand on Susan's shoulder. If you are right, human, if our peoples were once joined, then perhaps your coming here was not chance but destiny. Susan worked through the night analyzing, comparing. Testing, her shuttle communicator beeped regularly with messages from Kelly Nash, reminding her that time was running short, but Susan barely noticed. She was close to something, she could feel it, near dawn. Susan bolted upright from her workstation. I think I have it. Your cellular structure shares remarkable similarities with Earth lichens. Lichens, May asked. Organisms on Earth that are actually a symbiotic relationship between fungi and algae. They cannot exist separately, but together, they create a new organism that can survive in the harshest environments. I believe your ancestors and mine had a similar relationship. At some point, your people evolved to reproduce independently, but certain key elements from human genetics were still necessary. Susan created a simulation showing how human DNA might be used to stabilize the degrading Lyran genetic code. If I'm right, we could use synthesized human genetic material to create a treatment. The missing pieces would be restored. May studied the simulation, her skin cycling through colors. It could work, but we would need living human tissue to synthesize the treatment. Samples alone would not be enough. Susan took a deep breath. Use me. Take what you need from me. Eliara's skin darkened with concern. The process would be painful for you, human, and there is no guarantee of success. My name is Susan, and I came here to help. That is what humans do. As the twin suns of Lyra Prime rose over the Crystal City, Susan prepared to undergo a procedure that might save an entire civilization. She thought of the Aurora, orbiting above of Commander Olivia, waiting for her report of the mission that had brought her across the stars, Nash. She spoke into her communicator. Tell the Commander, I may need more time. There are people dying here, and I think I can help them. Susan Carter stood at the observation deck of the starship Aurora, staring at the mysterious blue planet below. Her heart raced with excitement as she prepared to make history. The captain had selected her for the mission to investigate the strange distress signal coming from Lyra Prime, a planet that was not supposed to have intelligent life. As the lead xenobiologist on the Aurora, Susan had spent 10 years studying alien life forms across 17 different star systems, but she had never encountered a civilization advanced enough to send distress signals into space. This mission could change everything humanity knew about their place in the universe. Commander Olivia Wells approached Susan as she packed her equipment for the journey to the surface. She was a stern woman with 30 years of space exploration experience. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform was perfectly pressed as always. Are you sure about this, Carter? We have no idea what might be waiting down there, Olivia said, her voice laced with concern. Susan continued checking her translator device and nodded. This is what I trained for, Commander. If there are intelligent beings down there suffering from some kind of crisis, we have a duty to help. And just think of what we might learn. Olivia sighed. The shuttle is ready. You have 72 hours before we consider you missing in action. After that, we follow protocol and return to Earth. I understand, Commander. I will maintain hourly radio contact, Susan replied as she sealed her expedition suit. The shuttle bay was quiet as Susan boarded the small craft that would take her to the surface. She had done dozens of planetary landings before, but this one felt different. The blue planet seemed to call to her as if it held secrets meant just for her. The pilot, Kelly Nash, gave her a thumbs up as the shuttle doors sealed. Ready for this, Doc? Kelly asked as she initiated launch sequence. As ready as I will ever be. Just get me down in one piece. The shuttle shook violently as it entered the atmosphere of Lyra Prime. Susan gripped her seat, watching as the blue sky outside gave way to swirling purple clouds. The sensors were going crazy, showing readings unlike anything they had encountered before. Something is interfering with our navigation systems, Kelly shouted over the roar of the engines. Hang on, this landing is going to be rough. The shuttle bounced hard against the surface twice, then skidded to a stop. Susan took a deep breath and checked her suit integrity. Everything was intact. Nice landing, Nash. Kelly smiled weakly. Better than crashing, I suppose. The engines are damaged. We will need at least 48 hours for repairs. You should still have enough time to explore and get back before the Aurora leaves. Susan activated her helmet and stepped toward the airlock. Keep the shuttle sealed until I confirm the atmosphere is safe. I will check in every hour. The alien world that greeted. Susan took her breath away. The ground was covered in a soft purple moss that seemed to glow slightly with each step she took. Towering crystal formations stretched toward the sky, reflecting the light from twin suns. The air readings showed a nitrogen-oxygen mix similar to Earth but with traces of unknown elements. Susan took a cautious breath after removing her helmet. The air was sweet, almost like honey, but safe to breathe. She activated her recorder. Day 1 on Lyra Prime. Atmosphere breathable. Gravity approximately 0.8 of Earth standard. Her scanner indicated the distress signal was coming from beyond a forest of crystal trees. Each tree stood nearly 50 feet tall with branches that chimed softly when the wind blew through them. As Susan walked deeper into the forest, she felt a strange sensation as if she was being watched. She paused, taking a sample of the glowing moss when she heard it. A soft, melodic sound, almost like singing, but in no language she had ever heard. Susan turned slowly and gasped. Standing before her was a tall, slender being with skin that shifted colors like an opal in sunlight. The being was clearly female, with elegant features and eyes completely black, without pupils or whites. She wore flowing garments that seemed to be made of the same crystal as the trees. Susan froze, unsure what to do. The alien regarded her with curiosity before extending a 6-fingered hand in what seemed like a greeting gesture. Susan slowly raised her own hand, mirroring the gesture. Hello, I am Susan Carter from Earth. We received your distress signal. The alien tilted her head, the colors of her skin shifting to a deep purple. She touched a device at her throat and spoke. Her voice was translated through Susan's device. I am Eliara, sovereign of the Lyrans. You are the first outsider to walk our world in 10,000 cycles. You speak our language, Susan said, surprised. Your device translates. But yes, we have studied the transmissions from your world for many cycles. We sent the distress call hoping your kind would answer. Our people are dying. Eliara gestured for Susan to follow her. As they walked through the crystal forest, more aliens appeared watching from behind trees or crystal formations. All female, all with the same color-shifting skin, though none glowed as brightly as Eliara. Where are the males of your species? Susan asked carefully. Eliara stopped walking. We are not as your kind. We do not have male and female as you understand it. We are all one gender, though in your language female would be closest. They crested a hill and Susan gasped at the sight before her. A vast city made entirely of crystal stretched across the valley. The buildings spiraled upward, connecting to each other in impossible ways that defied Earth architecture. Light pulsed through the structures as if the entire city was alive. This is Lyria, our last remaining city. Once there were many across the surface of our world, now we struggle to maintain even this. On. What happened to your people? Susan asked as they descended toward the city. A sickness, a corruption in our genetic structure. Each generation fewer of us can reproduce. Each child born is weaker than the last. In 3 more generations there will be no more Lyrans. Susan felt a weight settle on her shoulders. These beings had called for help across the stars, and now the fate of their entire species might rest in her hands. I will do everything I can to help you, she promised. Eliara's skin brightened slightly. Then come human. There is much to show you and little time remains. As they approached the Crystal City, Susan could not help but feel she was walking into a fairy tale. The buildings glowed with inner light, and the Lyrans moved with a grace that made them appear to be floating rather than walking. She activated her communicator. Nash, this is Carter. Make sure you're recording everything I'm sending. I've made first contact with an advanced civilization. They call themselves the Lyrans, and they need our help. The medical chamber was silent except for the soft humming of Lyran technology. Susan lay on a crystal table as May prepared the extraction equipment. Around them, several Lyran scientists observed with expressions Susan could not read, but their shifting skin colors revealed a mixture of hope and fear. The procedure will extract specific genetic material from your bone marrow and blood, May explained as she calibrated a device that looked like a silver wand with glowing blue crystals embedded in its surface. We will then synthesize these components and create a treatment for our people. The process will be painful for you. Susan nodded, trying to hide her nervousness. I understand. Will I need to remain on Lyra Prime during the entire treatment process? The initial extraction will take approximately 6 hours. After that, we need another 12 hours to synthesize the treatment and test it on a volunteer. If successful, your part will be done. Susan did quick calculations. In her head, the Aurora would leave orbit in 54 hours. If everything went according to plan, she would still have time to return. Commander Olivia had been surprisingly supportive when Susan explained the situation, granting her additional time but had been firm about the departure deadline. If this works, will your people be cured immediately? Susan asked as May attached monitoring devices to her temples. No. The treatment would need to be administered to all Lyrans and would take effect over several generations, but it would stop the degradation and allow our species to survive. That alone would be a miracle. Illyra entered the chamber, her purple skin glowing more intensely than Susan had seen before. Are you certain about this human? The risk to you is significant. My name is Susan, and yes, I am certain. This is why I became a xenobiologist, to understand and help other species. Illyra's expression softened. You have a noble spirit, Susan Carter of Earth. Whatever happens, today your name will be remembered in our history for generations to come. The extraction process began with a sharp pain as the crystal wand touched Susan's skin. It felt as if every cell in her body was being pulled in different directions. She gritted her teeth, fighting against the urge to scream. The Lyran scientists watched with concern as May carefully collected the glowing essence that the wand extracted from Susan's body. Hours passed in a haze of pain and semi-consciousness. Susan focused on her breathing, on the mission, on the fact that her suffering might save an entire civilization. She thought about Earth, about the incredible story she would have to tell if she survived this ordeal. Through the fog of pain, Susan heard May speaking excitedly. The extraction is complete. We have what we need. Susan tried to sit up, but her body felt impossibly heavy. Eliara moved to her side, placing a cool hand on her forehead. Rest now, human. Your part is done. We will prepare the treatment. Susan drifted into unconsciousness, dreams of crystal forests and color-shifting beings filling her mind. When she awoke, the light in the chamber had changed, and Kelly Nash was sitting beside her looking worried. There you are, Doc. You Had me scared I was about to break protocol and call in an emergency extraction. Susan blinked, trying to orient herself. How long was I out? Almost 18 hours. Commander Olivia is not happy. She's been demanding updates every hour. Your alien friends have been very accommodating, though. They even let me bring the shuttle closer to the city. Susan sat up slowly, wincing at the soreness throughout her body. The treatment did it work. Before Kelly could answer, Eliara and May entered the chamber. May's skin was a brilliant gold color that Susan had never seen before. It worked. May announced, "The volunteer's genetic structure has stabilized. The degradation has stopped. We are already synthesizing more of the treatment," Susan felt, tears forming in her eyes. Who was the volunteer? Eliara stepped forward. I could not ask my people to take a risk I was unwilling to face myself. Susan noticed that Eliara's purple glow seemed stronger, more vibrant. The sovereign of the Lyrans looked healthier than when they first met. "We must return to the Aurora soon," Kelly said, glancing at her chronometer. "We have less than 30 hours before departure." Eliara nodded. "We understand, but before you leave, we wish to offer something in return for what you have given us." The Lyrans led Susan and Kelly to a chamber deep within the crystal city that Susan had not seen before. Inside was a massive crystal formation that pulsed with energy. In the center, suspended in mid-air, was a small crystal shard no larger than Susan's thumb. "This is the heart crystal," Eliara explained. "It contains the pure genetic essence of our ancestors. Before the degradation began, it has been waiting for 10,000 cycles for this moment." May carefully removed the crystal from its suspension field and placed it in a small container. "We have infused this crystal with the combined genetic pattern, human and Lyran, a perfect symbiosis. We offer it to your people as a gift and as the foundation for a new relationship between our worlds." Susan accepted the container, feeling the weight of history and possibility in her hands. "Thank you. This will help our scientists understand your people better. Perhaps one day humans and Lyrans can share knowledge freely." "There is more," Eliara said, her voice solemn. "The ancient records you accessed revealed something we had forgotten. When the calamity struck our world long ago, some of our ancestors left with the Terrans. They may have established colonies on other worlds, perhaps even Earth." Kelly looked shocked. "Are you saying there might be Lyrans or Lyran descendants on Earth?" May nodded. "It is possible. If so, they would have adapted, appearing human but perhaps carrying dormant Lyran genetics. The treatment we created might awaken those dormant genes." Susan's scientific mind raced with the implications. That could explain certain human genetic anomalies we've never fully understood. Certain rare conditions might actually be traces of Lyran heritage. Eliara touched Susan's hand, her skin momentarily shifting to match Susan's tone. "We were not meant to be separate species, Susan Carter. We evolved together, and perhaps we are meant to find our way back to each other." As they prepared to return to the shuttle, the Lyrans gathered in the central plaza. To see them off, hundreds of color-shifting beings lined the crystal pathways, some reaching out to touch Susan as she passed, their skin momentarily connecting with hers in a gesture of gratitude. "They will tell stories of you," Eliara said as they reached the shuttle. "The human who came from the stars to save our people." Susan felt overwhelmed by the responsibility and the honor. "I only did what anyone would do," Eliara's expression suggested she did not believe that was true. "When you return to your world, will you tell them about us? Will you help build a bridge between our peoples?" "I will," Susan promised. "This is just the beginning." As the shuttle lifted off, Susan watched the crystal city grow smaller below her. The beauty of Lyra Prime etched forever in her memory, along with the knowledge that somewhere in human DNA might lie the secrets of an ancient connection to these remarkable beings. Kelly piloted the shuttle back toward the Aurora. "Commander Olivia is going to have a field day with your report, Doc. You just rewrote xenobiology and possibly human history in one mission." Susan clutched the container with the heart crystal, and possibly the future too. The shuttle docked with the Aurora exactly 46 hours after Susan had first set foot on Lyra Prime. Commander Olivia was waiting in the hangar bay, her expression a mixture of relief, irritation, and curiosity. Behind her stood the ship's chief, Medical Officer Diane Foster, and the head of the Science Division, Patricia Miller. "Welcome back, Carter," Olivia said, as Susan and Kelly stepped off the shuttle. "I trust you have a good explanation for why you nearly missed our departure window." Susan held up the container with the heart crystal. "I have something better than an explanation. Commander, I have proof of the most significant xenobiological discovery in human history." The next hours were a blur of debriefings, medical examinations, and scientific analyses. Susan recounted everything she had learned about the Lyrans, their genetic degradation, and the treatment they had developed using her DNA. The science team was especially fascinated by the heart crystal, which glowed with a soft purple light whenever Susan held it. "The energy readings from this crystal are unlike anything we've ever seen," Patricia said as she examined it in the ship's laboratory. "And you say it contains combined human and Lyran genetic material?" "Yes," Susan confirmed. "The Lyrans believe our species were once connected, that humans and Lyrans evolved together until a catastrophic event separated us." Diane reviewed the medical scans of Susan's body. "Your cellular structure shows signs of the extraction process. They took quite a bit from you, Carter. You should have been unconscious for days, not hours. Your recovery rate is extraordinary." Susan had noticed this herself. The pain and weakness she had felt after the procedure had faded much faster than expected. Could it be an effect of the Lyran technology? "Possibly," Diane said thoughtfully. "Or it could be something else entirely. We need to run more tests." Commander Olivia called an emergency meeting of the ship's senior staff. The holographic display in the conference room showed images of Lyra Prime, the Crystal City, and the Lyrans themselves captured from Susan's recording device. "This discovery changes everything," Olivia said, addressing the gathered officers. "Our mission was simply to explore the outer reaches of the Andromeda system. Now we've established first contact with an advanced civilization, one that may have ties to our own evolutionary history. Earth Command needs to be informed immediately." Patricia raised a concern. "The journey back to Earth will take 3 months at maximum speed. By the time we arrive, the Lyrans will have already begun implementing the treatment Susan helped develop. Should we not remain in orbit to monitor the results?" Olivia shook her head. "Our supplies are limited. We need to return to Earth Station to report this discovery. A dedicated scientific mission can be dispatched to Lyra Prime." Susan felt a strange reluctance at the thought of leaving the Crystal Planet and its people. "Commander, with respect, I request permission to remain behind with a small team. We could establish a temporary research outpost on the surface, monitor the treatment effects, and continue learning about Lyran culture and technology." The commander considered this. "That would violate at least 6 different protocols, Carter. So did performing an untested medical procedure on an alien world," Susan countered. "Yet that decision may have saved an entire species. Sometimes protocols need to be flexible when faced with extraordinary circumstances." A tense silence fell over the conference room. Finally, Olivia sighed. "I'll allow a small research team to remain, 4 people maximum. The Aurora will continue to Earth with our preliminary findings, and request a dedicated mission to return here. In the meantime, you will maintain daily communication and follow strict quarantine protocols." Susan felt a wave of relief. "Thank you, Commander." "Don't thank me yet, Carter. This decision could end both our careers if anything goes wrong." Within 12 hours, Susan had assembled her team. Kelly Nash volunteered to remain as their pilot and communications specialist. 2 science officers, Brooke Wilson and Vanessa Lee, also joined the mission. They gathered supplies, equipment, and prepared a module that would serve as their temporary home on Lyra Prime. As the module was loaded onto the shuttle, Diane pulled Susan aside. "I've been analyzing your blood samples. There are anomalies developing. I can't explain. The Lyran procedure may have had unforeseen effects on your cellular structure." Susan felt a chill. "What kind of effects?" "I'm not sure yet. Nothing immediately dangerous, but your cells are showing increased regenerative capabilities, and some of your previously dormant DNA sequences have become active. Could it be related to what the Lyran said about humans possibly carrying dormant Lyran genetics? Diane shrugged. It's possible we're in uncharted territory here. Carter, promise. Me, you'll monitor your condition and report any changes immediately. The return to Lyra Prime felt different this time. Susan watched through the shuttle viewport as the Crystal City came into view. Kelly piloted them to a landing site just outside, the city perimeter where they would establish their research outpost. Iliara and a group of Lyrans were waiting for them. The Sovereign's skin glowed with renewed vigor, her once dull purple now vibrant and bright. You have returned, Iliara said with what Susan now recognized as the Lyran equivalent of a smile. And you have brought others? Susan introduced her team, explaining their mission to study Lyran culture and monitor the treatment effects. Iliara seemed pleased with this arrangement. Your people honor us with their interest. We have prepared spaces within the city for your research. May is eager to work with you again. Susan Carter. She believes there is much more to discover about the connection between our species. As they set up their equipment in the designated research area, Susan felt a strange sensation, a connection to the crystal structures around her. It was subtle, but undeniable, as if the crystals were somehow responding to her presence. She mentioned this to Brooke, who suggested they run some tests. Hold this sensor crystal, Brooke instructed, handing Susan what looked like a small, clear crystal shard. It measures bioenergetic fields. When Susan touched the crystal, it immediately glowed bright purple. Brooke checked the readings, her eyes widening. That's impossible. According to this, your bioenergetic field is partially matching Lyran patterns. Could it be contamination from the procedure they performed? Brooke shook her head. This isn't contamination, it's integration. Your body isn't just carrying Lyran cellular material, it's incorporating it. Susan remembered what Diane had said about the anomalies in her blood samples. Is it dangerous? I don't know, but we should definitely monitor it closely. Over the next few days, the research team established a routine studying Lyran technology, culture, and biology. Susan spent much of her time with May in the medical center, examining the effects of the treatment on the Lyran population. The results were promising. Those who had received the treatment showed immediate stabilization of their genetic structure and increased vitality. The children are responding even better than the adults. May reported, showing Susan the medical scans of the youngest Lyrans. Their systems seem to integrate the human genetic components more completely. Susan noticed something odd in the scans. Their skin patterns are changing. The color shifting seems more controlled, more directed. Yes, we believe this is a restoration of abilities our ancestors once had. The ability to communicate through color and pattern was much more sophisticated in our ancient past. The genetic degradation affected this too. As Susan worked alongside the Lyrans, she found herself increasingly able to understand their color language. The subtle shifts and patterns that had once seemed random now carried meaning, emotions, concepts, ideas. She did not mention this to her team, not yet. Not until she understood what was happening to her. One evening, as the twin suns set over the crystal forest, Susan found herself drawn to a secluded crystal formation near their research outpost. The crystals seemed to sing to her a melody just at the edge of hearing. When she placed her hand against the largest crystal, it glowed with the same purple light as the heart crystal. They recognize you? Susan turned to find Iliara standing nearby, watching her with those deep black eyes. What is happening to me? Susan asked. Iliara approached slowly. The Ancient Ones believed that when the Great Separation occurred, pieces of each species remained with the other, a dormant heritage waiting to be awakened. The treatment you helped create was meant to restore what was lost to the Lyrans. But perhaps it has awakened what was dormant in you as well. Susan stared at her reflection in the polished crystal surface of her quarters. The changes were subtle but undeniable. Her eyes had developed a slight shimmer in certain light, and her skin occasionally showed faint patterns of color when her emotions were strong. She had been on Lyra Prime for 3 weeks now, and each day brought new developments. Vanessa knocked on her doorframe. Susan, the daily report to Aurora is due in 10 minutes. Commander Olivia is expecting your update on the treatment. Progress. Susan nodded. I'll be right there. She had been carefully selective about what she included in these reports. Detailed information about the Lyran treatment success, yes. Cultural observations, absolutely. But nothing about the changes happening. To her, Diane had warned her before the Aurora departed that Earth Command might order her immediate return if they suspected she was experiencing physiological alterations. She could not risk that. Not yet. Not until she understood what was happening in the communications center. Kelly had established their link with the Aurora, now 3 weeks into its journey back to Earth. Susan prepared her report focusing on the medical breakthroughs they had documented. The treatment has now been administered to 90% of the Lyran population, she reported. Genetic stability has been achieved in all cases with no adverse reactions. The youngest generation is showing the most dramatic improvement, with some children now able to leave their medical pods for the first time. Commander Olivia's voice came through with a slight delay. That's excellent news, Carter. Earth Command is very interested in your findings. They're already preparing a dedicated scientific mission to Lyra Prime, expected to arrive within 6 months. Susan felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension at this news. More humans would soon arrive to study the Lyrans. What would they make of the connection between their species? And what would they think of the changes happening to Susan? We've been invited to participate in a Lyran ceremony tomorrow, Susan continued. They call it the Awakening, a celebration of their renewed health and hope for the future. It would be a valuable cultural observation opportunity. Approved, but maintain safety protocols, Carter. I don't need to remind you that despite their apparent friendliness, the Lyrans are still an unknown alien species. After the communication ended, Susan joined Brooke, who was analyzing crystal samples in their makeshift laboratory. These crystals are remarkable, Brooke said without looking up from her microscope. They're not just structures, they're almost like living technology. The way they respond to bioenergetic fields is unlike anything in our database. Susan picked up one of the smaller crystals, feeling the now familiar warmth and subtle vibration. May told me the Lyrans believe the crystals are connected to their consciousness, that the city itself is a kind of extension of their collective mind. Brooke looked up with interest. Is that why you can communicate with them the way you do? Susan froze. What do you mean? Susan, we all see it. The way you understand their color language, the way the crystals respond to you differently than to the rest of us. You're changing. There was no judgment in Brooke's voice, only scientific curiosity and friendly concern. Susan felt relief at finally being able to discuss it. It started after the extraction procedure. I thought it was just increased sensitivity at first, but it's more than that. I'm developing abilities that seem almost Lyran in nature. Brooke nodded thoughtfully. Your theory about dormant Lyran genetics in humans might be correct, and the procedure somehow activated those dormant sequences in you. Have you told Eliara about this? Not explicitly, but I think she knows. She says the crystals recognize me. The next morning, the research team prepared for the Awakening ceremony. Vanessa had been documenting Lyran cultural practices and was particularly excited about this opportunity. From what I understand, this ceremony hasn't been performed in over 100 cycles, she explained, as they walked toward the central plaza. It's traditionally a celebration of new life and renewal. Ducor. Crystal City had been transformed. Luminous patterns flowed through the structures, creating a symphony of light and color. Lyrans gathered in concentric circles around a central crystal formation that Susan had not seen before. It resembled a blooming flower with petals made of crystal that slowly opened and closed. Eliara greeted them wearing ceremonial garments that amplified her natural glow. Welcome, friends of Earth. You honor us by sharing this sacred day. The ceremony began with a hauntingly beautiful song. The Lyrans did not sing with voices, but rather through the shifting colors of their skin, creating patterns that moved in waves through the gathered crowd. The central crystal responded, pulsing with light that matched the rhythm of their color song. Susan felt the music in a way the others could not. Each pattern, each shift of color carried meaning, emotion, history. The song told the story of the Lyran people, their ancient connection to the stars, their near extinction, and now their salvation through the humans who had answered their call. Without realizing it, Susan's skin began to show faint patterns matching the Lyran song. Kelly noticed first, touching Susan's arm with concern. "Susan, your skin," before Susan could respond. Eliara approached and took her hands. "The awakening calls to you, come." The Sovereign led Susan toward the central crystal. The gathered Lyrans parted, creating a path. Susan felt every eye upon her, human and Lyran alike. "What's happening?" she whispered. "The heart crystal responds to you. It recognizes the connection between our peoples. The Ancient Ones foretold that one day a bridge between worlds would come. Someone who carried both essences within them." Susan looked back at her team, who watched with a mixture of concern and wonder. Brooke gave her an encouraging nod. At the center of the plaza, Eliara guided Susan's hands to touch the blooming crystal. As her fingers made contact, the crystal flared with brilliant light. Energy coursed through Susan's body, not painful but overwhelming, like being filled with liquid starlight. She gasped as memories that were not her own flooded her consciousness. She saw Lyra Prime as it had been 10,000 years ago. She saw humans and Lyrans living together, building the crystal cities, developing technologies beyond anything Earth currently possessed. She saw the asteroid impact, the desperate evacuation, the painful separation of the two species, and she saw something else. A plan, a hope seeds planted in both species, dormant connections that might one day reawaken when the time was right. When the vision faded, Susan found herself kneeling before the crystal, Eliara supporting her. The Lyrans around them were pulsing with patterns of awe and reverence. "What did you see?" Eliara asked softly. "Everything," Susan whispered. "The past, the connection, our shared history." May approached, carrying a small crystal pendant. "The heart crystal has shared its wisdom with you, Susan Carter. You now carry the memories of both worlds within you, the first true bridge between humans and Lyrans in 10,000 cycles." Susan accepted the pendant, which glowed with the same purple light as her eyes now did. "What does this mean for me, for us?" "It means the healing has truly begun," Eliara said. "Not just for the Lyrans, but for both our peoples. The separation was never meant to be permanent. Our ancestors planned for this day, for the reconnection." As Susan rejoined her team, she saw the questions in their eyes, but there was no fear, only wonder and scientific curiosity. "We're going to need to revise our report to Commander Olivia," Kelly said with a slight smile. Susan nodded, touching the crystal pendant at her throat. "The Aurora is too far away now to recall us. We have 3 more months before the scientific mission arrives. That gives us time to document everything, to prepare both sides for what's coming." "And what exactly is coming?" Vanessa asked. Susan looked back at the gathered Lyrans at the crystal city that now felt as much like home as Earth ever had. A reunion, a return to what we were always meant to be. 2 species that evolved together, finding their way back to each other, not as separate peoples, but as 2 halves of something greater. Over the next months, Susan's transformation continued. Her skin developed the subtle color-shifting ability of the Lyrans. Her connection to the crystal technology grew stronger, and most importantly, her understanding of what this meant for humanity deepened. The research team documented everything, working closely with May and the Lyran scientists to prepare for the arrival of the Earth scientific mission. They developed protocols for identifying humans with stronger dormant Lyran genetics, those who might be more receptive to awakening their heritage. When the day came for the scientific mission's arrival, Susan stood with Eliara at the landing site, her skin now shimmering with subtle patterns of welcome and hope. The massive research vessel descended through the atmosphere, bringing 200 of Earth's brightest minds to witness what Susan and her team had discovered. Are you nervous? Ilyara asked as they watched the ship land. Susan smiled, touching her crystal pendant. No. They will understand once they see what we've discovered here isn't just first contact, it's a homecoming. As the doors of the ship opened and the first scientists stepped onto the purple soil of Lyra Prime, Susan stepped forward to greet them. Her appearance would be a shock, but also the most compelling evidence of what she had learned. That humanity's future among the stars might not be about conquering new worlds, but about returning to old connections. Welcome to Lyra Prime, she said, her skin glowing with patterns of greeting that matched Ilyara's beside her. We have quite a story to tell you.